So now we've talked about syllables, and we've talked about both stressed and unstressed syllables. Let's talk about how to indicate stress on syllables within words. First, you don't have to mark stress for single-syllable words that are produced in isolation. Since there's only one syllable being produced, it's considered to be stressed by definition. So if the word is cat, then you can transcribe it this way and be fine. But if you're transcribing anything more than a single-syllable word in isolation, then you have to mark at least one syllable as stressed. So in the phrase the cat, the single-syllable word cat is not being transcribed in isolation, and you'll have to mark at least one syllable as stressed. The stress mark looks like an apostrophe, but it isn't an apostrophe. It's a small, straight up and down mark that goes up above the X height line where the ascenders of some symbols go. But when making a stress mark, be sure you aren't using a curly quotes type of symbol, and that you aren't using a slanted line such as that used for certain accent symbols. Stick with a simple, straight, up and down mark, and you won't be tempted to put it right above a vowel character either, because that's not where a stress mark goes. So where does a stress mark go? The convention is that we always mark stress before the stressed syllable. Keeping in mind that many syllables have onsets, this means that we'll often put the stress mark before a consonant that begins the syllable that's stressed. This might seem a bit counterintuitive because we think of the vowel as being stressed, not the consonant. But remember that stress doesn't apply to single sounds at all. Instead, stress applies to entire syllables. Remember that individual speech sounds are referred to as segments, and that stress is a suprasegmental quality. This means that it exists at a level that goes beyond the individual speech segments. So in a word like giraffe, the stress is marked before the onset of the second syllable. In the word reduction, stress is also marked before the second syllable onset. Some words have more than one stressed syllable, in which case we might get two stress marks, as in the word polysyllables. Now here's the word rhotic, which we've said many times in this course. What's interesting about this word is that the medial consonant sound is a tap. And you'll recall that we described the exact situation in which we would expect a tap to appear, when it's an alveolar stop that occurs between two vowels, the second of which is unstressed. And that's exactly what we see here. There's a vowel on either side of this sound, and crucially, the second of those vowels is unstressed. But notice what happens in the word rhoticity. When the stress shifts to the second syllable, the alveolar stop is still between two vowels, but now the second of those vowels is stressed. And what happens to the alveolar consonant? Well, it doesn't become a tap anymore. In fact, it's situations like these that give us very strong evidence that the sound in the word rhotic really is, phonemically, a t sound. We can even find situations in which we produce it as a t. We just have to have the stress in the right place. And lastly, just for fun, we can look at the stress in syllabification in the prototypically longest word in English, anti-disestablishmentarianism. Notice that in the 12 syllables that make up this word, there are 4 stresses marked. Some people might like to mark a stress on the second to last syllable, and in fact that would probably be okay. Whether there is really stress on that syllable likely depends on how careful or how casual the speaker's production was. Generally, in more careful styles of speaking, there are more stressed syllables. That's part of what makes it more careful. And as you might expect, more casual speech often has fewer stressed syllables and often more reduced vowels. So as with most things in phonetics, your transcription will be based both on what you actually heard and your goals for the transcription. In other words, do you want a broader, more big-picture type of transcription, or a more narrow, detail-focused transcription? This is a question that doesn't have a single answer, so you'll have to know the purpose of your transcription in order to make the appropriate decision regarding the level of breadth of transcription that'll be appropriate. Thanks for watching this brief introduction to syllable structures and stress conventions in the study of phonetics.